Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news this Friday, the 28th of March. And we've got a David Ornstein transfer bomber coming in. Is it time to worry for Ruben Amorim? We'll talk about that. Latest on Gyökeres, Jonathan David, Trincao, Tyler Dibbling, a few others as well. I'm trying to figure out in my head where we're going to go after we go with the Ornstein. There is quite a bit to go through this morning, so get your comments in as always. You are the power source of the show and you drive the real debate, so get involved. You're very welcome this morning. Thank you for tuning in wherever you are around the world, whether you're watching live or not. Get involved with the United Stand, smash a like and get your comments in. Okay, let's start off with David Ornstein and Manchester United's transfer strategy. This is a direct quote coming in from him, and I'll tell you where I'm reading it from as well. This is coming in from UTD Truthful on X. Shout out to them. I think they're the first one I've seen put it out there today. We're hearing this is direct from David Ornstein. We're hearing their preference will be to continue what has been their approach more recently in relation to Man United's transfer strategy. Younger talents costing lower transfer fees and salaries who fit Amorim's system and style and can develop into top players with increased market value. So I'd imagine there'll be further recruits along the lines you mentioned rather than going for the likes of Gyökeres or Osman. Don't hold me to that because you never know in this unpredictable industry, but that is the direction of travel being explained to us. So David Ornstein, Fabrizio Romano, as I said last night, would be the tier 1A transfer people that get information out of Manchester United. They are being told that the direction of travel will continue the way it has been in recent months, where Man United are looking for cheaper, younger players on salary and transfer fee that can develop and increase in value. I mean, this is what I've said to you many times before. Is it time to worry? For me, as well, I'm not even going to claim it. Can I just get a big shout out for ASAM in the chat? We are officially Everton and Crystal Palace. And that to me is exactly what I was going to say. I said this a few weeks ago. We are behaving like Everton and we are behaving like Everton. I wouldn't even say we're behaving like Brighton, Raccoon. I really wouldn't. I think we're behaving like Everton and Crystal Palace. I think we are buying cheap, good players to increase them in value. And why are we interested in increasing the value of a footballer at Manchester United? It's a nice thing to do. You know, when we had Giggs and Scholes and Beckham, it was nice to know they were worth £100 million each, but we never had any intention of cashing in on them. The value of a player never really used to matter because you don't want to sell them. So why are Man United putting it out there to Fabrizio and David Ornstein that they want young, cheap players that increase in value? We've never been that. We're never, that's not, you know, that's not what Real Madrid are looking to do. Yes, it's a byproduct, but you're not actually doing it to cash in. So I think it's concerning. And look as well, there is a contradiction here as well. I was reading this morning that surprise, Cilla Black. I've played the game. And what I mean by I've played the game is I said this to you last night. This £100 million story about Tyler Dibbling. What did I say? I said, I guarantee you that's going to be more about, that'll be 60, right? And we'll pay it. And the reason the 100 million's out there is for us to go, oh, well, it was 100 and we've got a bargain. He ain't never going for 100 million pounds. Never going for 100 million pounds. He's not worth 60. But what'll happen is put a story out there that he's worth 100 million. And then when we pay 60, which is preposterous, some of our fans will go, well, we've got a bargain. Oh, Barada doing a madness. The Barada Bomba. Get out of the way, Ornstein. Barada's dropping transfer bombers. Yeah. Have that, Southampton, in your face. You wanted 100 million. We've given you 60 million. We've basically robbed you publicly. United are back. 60 million for 19-year-old relegated Tyler Dibbling. Have that. United are back. Yeah, you can shove your Premier League up your arse, Liverpool, because we've just done bargain of the century. We haven't done bargain of the century. He's not worth 60 million pounds, is he? He's not worth 60 million pounds, but predictably, you throw 100 million out and then Southampton apparently would be interested in 60. So what was the £100 million about then? Oh, you've suddenly took a 40% decrease and you're happy. Not worth 100 million quid, is he? But going back to what Ornstein's saying, if you're tuning in slightly late, we are live at 10 o'clock. David Ornstein is hearing that United prefer to go for younger, cheaper talents that will develop and increase in value over the likes of Gyökeres and Osimhen. The hilarious thing is that if you spend £60 million on 19 million, if you spend £60 million on 19-year-old Tyler Dibbling, you would get Gyökeres for that, who would go straight into your team, score your goals and get you top four. And this is where I'm worried. I know some people are okay with this, but I'm genuinely worried as to what they are doing to our football club and why they think it's acceptable to basically make us Nice or Everton. Like, why is it acceptable that Man United suddenly write the next 5 years off on young players? And also, can I just say to the people out there that, and there are United fans out there that do protect and Sir Jim, like there are. I don't know whether they're bots, but I see the comments. I see them on social media, I see them in our community. There are people out there that defend Sir Jim Radcliffe even though he defends the Glazers. So as a byproduct, you're defending the Glazers. If you defend Sir Jim, you're defending the Glazers because he defends the Glazers as he did publicly 2 weeks ago. So, but there are people out there that go, well, it's going to take 5 years to get the stadium, so what's the problem with taking 5 years to build a team? Well, some of us will be dead in 5 years. You know, how many league titles will Liverpool win in the next 5 years? So it's okay to basically put the handbrake on. We've done that for the last 10 years. So I don't think it's ever... I mean, look at Nottingham Forest last season. Relegation battle. This season, third. Things can change in football like that. Why is it okay to write off 5 years? And the big thing for me that worries me the most is and look, I'm not just quoting David Ornstein. I've heard it from Sir Jim himself. Let's buy young players that are cheaper, that increase in market value. Well, what if we're going to buy these players and then sell them for profit? What if we are looking to be Everton? What if we want the Rooney to sell for a massive amount of money? What if that's what we want to do? We want the Ross Barkley so we can sell him for... What if we are buying young to sell high? What if that is the strategy? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, at what point have we been told we're buying young to keep them for the next 10 years and build a team? We've been told we want to buy young and cheap and increase market value. Why does market value come into it unless you're going to realise the market value? There is no point in buying a Ferrari, putting it on your drive, it increasing in value, and you never sell it. Like, you don't realise the value. It may as well be worth what you paid for it. All right, everyone knows it's worth double what you paid for it, but if you don't cash in, what's the point? So, yeah, I'm worried about our strategy. But the best bit for me is that, and I think we've said this before, is that when you go back to what David Ornstein says, is that they're more likely to be recruiting young players that are cheaper with potential than bringing in the likes of Gyökeres and Osimhen. Well, okay, Man United this summer buy Liam Delap. Chelsea get Osimhen. Gyökeres goes to Arsenal. What am I supposed to do in August? Sing and shout and be really happy about the fact that we've bought a young striker that might be good in 3 years' time whilst Arsenal and Liverpool are better in front of my eyes. That's my problem with this, is this obsession with cheap young players when we're crying out for experience in 2 or 3 key areas in that team. I think we need an experienced midfielder. I think we need an experienced attacker. And I think we need an experienced... we need an experienced goalkeeper as well, don't we? But, yeah, I feel like it is a concern. But look, get your comments in. Mark, I'm not a Sir Jim defender, but spending 70 million on superstars is not the answer. We wanted a change in transfer policy and still moaning. No, I'm sorry, Tony Martial. What you've done there, quite rightly, and I respect it, is you have put your opinion out there and told us that that is the bottom line. Well, Tony, wake up. Here's the alternative for you. I do think we need to spend £70 million on a striker. I do think that we need to bring in some experience. And I don't agree that we need a change in transfer policy that is this. And I don't agree that it's moaning to sit here on a morning show with David Ornstein, one of the most respected journalists who is briefed by Man United, saying that United are going to turn their back on experience to buy young potential that's cheap. That's not the transfer policy I want. If it's what you want, Tony, well done. Thank you for your opinion. I respect it. But don't come on here telling us anybody that thinks they have concerns about that is moaning. You're just happy because it's like we get home tonight and we go around Tony's and Tony's partner says, I've made an apple crumble and custard. That might be Tony's favourite pudding. And he might be, what a way to start the weekend. I might be like, that's crap. I wanted a pavlova. I don't even like apple crumble and custard. Just because you like it, Tony, well done. I'm not saying it's wrong. But what I'm saying is I'm concerned about it because this is not what I think we should be doing. And also, I don't trust Omar Barada, David Brailsford, Sir Jim Radcliffe. I don't trust them. I don't think they've earned that trust. I don't think they're football experts. I don't think they actually know what they're doing. I just think they're trying to do things cheap. And cheap ain't always best. If you're getting your kitchen refitted and somebody wants to do it for double the price of somebody else, going with the cheap option might work if they can work and do a better job than the people who are overcharging you. But sometimes you pay for what you get for. And also, the person doing it on the cheap might be an apprentice. And the person who's doing it expensive might have built 10 kitchens over the last 10 years. So that's my point. I agree we need a change in transfer policy. We've got to stop paying stupid wages. We've got to stop overpaying on transfer fees. And we've got to start researching the players that we're buying around fitness, mentality, etc. Those three things I agree with. But I don't agree with abandoning buying the likes of Gyökeres or Osimhen, who are 26, by the way. They're not 36. I don't agree with us having a policy where we don't want to buy anybody over 25 because they're expensive. There's a reason they're expensive at 26. They have a CV. And this team is crying out for a CV. What's going to happen next season, Tony, when we're into October? We've already lost 4 games and we're home to Brighton getting beat again. Are you going to sit there and go, hey, I'm happy. You know, we've got Delap up front. We've got another couple of kids that we've brought in and they're not ready yet. But I'm happy to be mid-table getting beat by Brighton at Old Trafford because this is the policy I want. And that's you know, it's like Wizard said, we're 15th, Tony. We're 15th. I don't think buying kids is going to get us in the top 4. I think it's like anything in life. We need a mix of youth, experience and potential. And at the moment, it looks like we're going, you know, let's just go cheap and young. And it worries me because I think Sir Jim Radcliffe thinks he can just write off the next 5 years on a new stadium and a young team. And it won't work. It won't. People won't put up with it. What were we talking about yesterday? Ugarte. People are abusing Ugarte on an international break. He hasn't even got a Man United shirt on. And you think those same people are going to sit there and be okay about a striker that's not good enough, who's like 20? Like, they're not going to... It's not going to work. We need a mix. The reason David Ornstein is saying that we're going cheap, and the reason Man United are telling David Ornstein that we're going cheap, is because we can't afford to go any more than that. That's the justification. You can hide behind a policy. You can hide behind we want to buy young and cheap. But the reality is we can't afford. We can't afford to go any more than that. So walking detected. I'm sat on my arse. Sat on my arse. Reese Summers says, club is being run like a pig farm, feeding us rubbish to fatten up the club's value, but owners are the only ones who benefit from a big payday. We need better recruitment. Thank you very much for your super chat, Reese. JR says, we need better recruitment, not buy cheaper players over established, proven players. Gyökeres should be signing for Manchester United. This is the player that Amorim wanted. We should be signing Gyökeres. He's experienced. Rasmus and Xerxes and Obi need an experienced striker. They don't need Liam Delap. Do you think Rasmus, Xerxes and Obi need Liam Delap to push them to the next level? They need Harry Kane. They need Lewandowski. You're never getting them. So you go the next. You need Osman. You need Gyökeres. You need strikers that are at the top of their game. Everybody knows this. You could run a poll of every Man United fan, every Arsenal fan, every ex-player, every pundit. What type of striker do Man United need? Let's run a big football industry and fan base poll of what Man United need. And I'll tell you for free, 90% of millions of people would say Man United need a striker who's about 26, who's proven, who's coming into their prime to score goals. That's not Mark Goldbridge's opinion. That's not Martial's opinion. That's the opinion of anybody in football. 90% of anybody in football would say Man United need a striker for the next 4 years to score goals who is experienced and in their prime, 26. Oh, hello, Gyökeres and Osman are both available. What are we doing? No, we want Liam Delap. Yeah, we don't want that. We know everybody says we should get one of those, but we've got a better idea, right? Listen to us on this one, right? We know everybody says we should get those experienced players in their prime and they're reasonably priced, but our idea is let's take a punt on a young player who's not actually good enough at the moment, who might be good in 2 years. Yeah? Yeah? You know what we're on about, right? So everybody says we should go for the guys who are 26 and ready to go, but we think we should spend quite a lot of money on an inexperienced, unproven striker who might be good at some point in the future. Yeah? Who's with us? Yeah. No. You know, we're in the game of winning here. We're 15th in the league. We're on thin ice in the Europa League. We've got absolutely no chance of getting top 6 next season, even with Gyökeres or Osman, but let's at least try and get in the fight. I think we already have young, talented players in almost all the positions. We need experienced players, and without the experienced player, whom will the young players learn from? Great point, Kevin. If the argument was young and cheap with talent because we're broke, I could accept it. But to say its value scared the crap out of me, says Z3 Music Official. Well, look, you know, let's go back to the Tyler Dibbling story. We're obviously in for him, and we're obviously playing some sort of game where everybody says he's worth 100 million, which he's not, so that it's acceptable for us to spend 60. We're clearly looking to do a Lenny Yoro, aren't we? We're clearly looking to say to Southampton, you've been relegated, you need the money, let's take Dibbling from you. For what we do is, right? What we're doing is, and we did it to Real Madrid and we did it with Yoro, right? Real Madrid want to give Yoro's club last summer 40. So Man United say, we'll give you 53, but we'll give it you over 5 years. So it's Barcelona tactics. It's pulling levers and kicking it down the road. So we pay way more than market value because we spread it out over 5 years. So I think what we're doing with Dibbling here again is we know there's competition. You play the game with Southampton. You put out 100 million there to scare a load of people off. And then you also put it out there so that when you overpay yourself, your own fans go, we got a good deal. What we'll end up doing here is we'll pay between 50 and 60 million for Dibbling over 5 years. We'll overpay, but we'll spread it out. And we'll sell it as a real bargain because remember, it was 100 million. And remember, a couple of other clubs were involved. So we'll end up spending 50, 60 million pounds on Dibbling and we'll spread it out over 5 or 6 years. Basically, what you'd get Osman or Gyökeres for, we'll pay for a 19-year-old. But the difference is he's 19, he'll have a resale value in 5 years, Gyökeres and Osman won't. And also, he's 19 at Southampton, they will do a 5-year spread, whereas Napoli and Sporting won't do that because they'll go, we're not having £10 million a year over the next 5 years for Gyökeres. Arsenal will give us 60 million now. That's the real truth. That's your financials in football. Don't fall for the crap that we're buying young players with potential. We will spend the same on Dibbling that we'd spend on Osman and Gyökeres, quite simply because we can spread it out over 5 years, and in 5 years we can sell him for what we bought him. Whereas with Gyökeres and Osman, you can't spread it out, and there's no resale value in 5 years. It's pure business. We're not buying young players because of their potential. We're buying young players because you can spread the cost out and there's a resale value. How does that help me as a Man United fan? Who would I rather have, Dibbling or Gyökeres? A 19-year-old who may be good in a few years' time, or a 26-year-old who can start scoring me goals literally on the US tour. This is what we're doing. And it makes me laugh that people think we're doing something else. I don't know why you would ever trust this football club. It's always about money. They tried to take us in a bloody Super League behind your back. It's always about money. And we're not buying young players because we think we're going to win the league in 5 years. We're buying them because they're cheap and they have a resale value. It's as simple as that. Personally, you can go with what you like. Personally, I want as many 26-year-olds as we can get this summer, which is why I like the Trincao deal, because he's 25. And he's played for Amorim before. Patrick Lynch says, the fallacy is that United are considered a football giant. To buy cheap and sell big, you need to sell to other big clubs who will just do like Real Madrid did with Trent, get them free when they're 25 and develops. I mean, I think this is a great point by Patrick as well. And yet again, thank you very much for the super chat, but I think it is a great point. Football is a changing. And, you know, it's all right saying, well, we can sell Mainu for 60. We can sell Garnacho for 60. We could buy Dibbling for 60 and he might be worth 100 at 25. But what if they run their contracts down? Like, Trent Alexander-Arnold is getting a lot of stick at the moment, but he's got every right to run his contract down if he wants to. If this is our transfer plan, we are finished as a top 4 team. We need strikers like Gyökeres, says Dazzo. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Tony Martial's come back. Remember, his part 1 was basically saying that he likes the transfer policy and doesn't want us to buy 70 million superstars. Tony Martial says, he's come back. What if Osimhen flops or Gyökeres flops? We cannot afford these type of players to flop. Look at Onana or any other top player we bought in the past. But mate, I've just explained to you there, and you might have missed it in fairness. If you buy Tyler Dibbling for 60 million and you spread it out over 5 years, we can't afford that to flop because we're paying for it for 5 years. You know? So it literally is the same thing. Also, look at Lenny Yoro. We can't afford Lenny Yoro to flop, can we? He's 19. We've paid £53 million for him that won't be paid off till he's 24. What if Lenny Yoro flops? So it's the same with any player, isn't it? Young players can get injuries, says Alias as well. What I'm saying is I'm not disputing what you're saying, Tony. You're right. If you buy Gyökeres and he flops, you've wasted 60 million quid. But any player can flop. Any transfer is a risk. And you make a good point inadvertently. Any transfer is a risk. Which means that if your transfer policy is to not buy experienced players and to buy young players, remember what we've always said here. And it goes back to a quote, I think, from Mourinho in 2004, is that when you look through the history of football, whether you're Sir Alex Ferguson or Arsene Wenger, no manager has ever had a 70% success rate on transfers. 70%. I think the average is around 50 to 60, which means that if you buy 7 players, 3 of them will flop. Well, actually 6. If you buy 10 players, 4 of them will flop. So no matter what policy you go for, 40% of your players are going to flop in one way, shape or form, whether it's injury, they just do okay, or they're totally shit. So any transfer has the potential to flop, of course. We should look at reinforcing the defence and also bring in Kai Havertz as Enchanted Angel. Come on, let's try and be serious. We needed full sale. We're ran by clowns. The death of the club is upon us. We're now a selling club for profit. Glinios out, says Anders. Look, I don't really want to go down that road because we've got an update on Jonathan David. I don't really want to go down that road because it's a road we're more than happy to discuss. Maybe we can bring it in on the Friday night show tonight. But look, I'm not here to defend Sir Jim Radcliffe, but I am here to say we can't expect something that's not going to happen. Like, everything he's done in the last 6 months is what they are doing. They are here to cut costs and raise money. That's them. Forget the football. Oh, we want to be good. Oh yeah, you know what? You know, I want to win the millionaire. I want to win the lottery. You know, yeah. I want to go on holiday tomorrow and have a week off. Not going to happen. Yeah, we want to do this. We want to do that. What the reality is, you can want to win the Premier League and have no chance of winning it. They're just words. But what we are in this ownership model is cut to the bone, save money, raise money. That's all we're here to do. And no football club in Premier League history has won the Premier League on a strategy of sackings and saving money. It just won't work. It's not a blueprint to success. It's just not a successful way in football. You've got to spend to accumulate in football. It always has been that way. Until proven otherwise. So that if they do get proven right, I suppose that's the sentence, isn't it, really? For Sir Jim Ratcliffe to make Man United successful, he's got to break the mould of football logic and win by cutting costs. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thoughts on the young prodigy? I don't know, Philippe. You're asking the wrong person. If they really wanted to buy young players and build a future team, why didn't they buy Kenda? Says Glazers out. Good point. Can Chukwuemeka work in Amorim's system as a 10? Says Liam. You're just chucking names at me, to be honest with you. I don't know. I don't know about players that we're not being linked to, honestly. And I have been very consistent about that. It's all right throwing names at me, but if we're not linked to them, I don't see the point. It's bad enough with who we're linked to without fantasizing about players that we're not linked to. Yeah. But I mean, look, as I said, I think that one of my big frustrations at the moment is Gyökeres and Osimhen are perfect. They're literally perfect for what we need. And that doesn't mean we sell Xerxes or Rasmus, far from it, but they are perfect for what we need. And it's very rare in a summer transfer window that you get two of what you need. Like, I wouldn't be bothered who we got. They're perfect. They're 26, they're 60 million quid. They're proven, they're perfect. They're absolutely perfect. And we're going, nah, we want to go young. We want to go young and cheap, and that is annoying. It really is annoying. And I think that when I look at it, I sort of go, you know, what is it we're trying to do? And then you just come back to the fact that the club is just not actually being run like a football club, is it? A football club should be run by people who want to be successful. They're not doing it for the money, they're doing it for success. And you'll get some prat in the chat saying, well, that's not how you run a business. Exactly. Football shouldn't be a business. It shouldn't be a business. If you look at the vast majority of the Premier League, most owners aren't running it as a business. Unfortunately, as for the last 20 years, we have owners who run it as a business. And you can't run a football club as a business. It's not, well, you can, but it can't be the aim. Like Real Madrid are a business. I don't know whether they make money, but they are a business in the sense that they make a lot of money. I don't know whether they make a lot of profit, but football's not about that. Football's never been about that. There are rich people out there that want to own football clubs and earn their money elsewhere. For example, traditionally, you would own a football club, but you'd make your money doing something else. So you're making your money doing something else, and your football club is your hobby. It's your passion. It's like, you know, you don't put a Ferrari and put it on your drive and drive it at weekends and wash it to make money out of it. It's your passion. It's the thing you love. Monday to Friday, you're working in, you know, on the stock exchange making your money so that you can look after your Ferrari and drive it. That's what a football club is meant to be. That's what it's always been. It's the play toy of the owner. You know, the owner earns money in other ways so that they can have the status of a football club and the enjoyment of a football club. What we've got is owners who want the football club to be their job, and they want to make money out of it. And it's a terrible mix, and that's why we are where we are. Right, let me go through some other news anyway. There is some other bits to get through, but yeah, I mean, I am worried about the transfer policy. I'm sorry, whether we like it or not, I am. That looks good, but that's not football related. Oh yeah, this is the one I wanted to talk about. So it's coming in from Mirror Sport. Manchester United boss Amorim is keen to land Trincao from Sporting Lisbon, but the club are likely to demand more than his release clause, 50 million. Amorim's keen to reunite with the player with whom he coached in Portugal and is confident he would be a good fit in the Premier League. Well, look, I'll bring this one in because there's a few to go through. Trincao is available for about £35 million release clause. So why would you pay 50 million? This goes back to what I was saying before. Some people are really confused about this morning. And it's really quite simple. Man United can't afford release clauses. So Xerxes was 33 million. We paid 36. It makes no sense. But the trouble with the release clause is you have to pay it all. So you've got to give Bologna 33 million quid. So what we did is we said we'll give you 36, but we'll pay you over 3 years. So we only pay 12 each year. That is why I would imagine this story is coming out about us paying 50, because we've probably said to Sporting, we want Trincao, but we can't give you 36 million now. We'd like to pay it in instalments. And Sporting have probably said, okay, 50. And you know, people will say quite rightly walk away, but they might have said, give us 10 million over 5 years, or give us 36 now. And this is the thing about kicking it down the road. Man United might actually do it because they'll go 5 years, 10 million a year. We can do that. It's like a loan, isn't it, in a way? So that might be why that price is being touted over his release clause. And hopefully that, I don't need to add anything else to it because we've just spoken about that before. The reason we don't, the real reason we're not buying Gyökeres and Osimhen is because they will want 60 million up front. The reason we'll go for Delap or Dibbling is because those clubs are being relegated and they probably will be quite happy for us to give them 50 million over 5 years. So we'll spend the same on these 19, 21-year-olds, but we won't get the quality. So I think that Trincao, we may pay more than the release clause because we can spread it over 5 years. I don't think it looks good. I mean, I don't think it looks good, but I think it's just the way that the business is working at the moment, isn't it? That we have to do those sort of things. But I like, look, the player itself. I like the player. I like Trincao. The positives for me are that he's 25 and he's played in Amorim's system before, and we need players like that. So I've spoken about this before. I wouldn't be too unhappy about it. Just on Jonathan David, I've seen a couple of things. Just on Roger Fernandez of Braga, apparently that's £25 million, which is right in our sort of price range, isn't it? Whether he's good enough or not, I don't know. And I think, look, I saw some people talking about Roger Fernandez of Braga and saying bargain at £25 million. Hopefully, flip side, pragmatic, devil's advocate, cheap because he's not as good as anybody else. You know, he's £25 million and Anthony Gordon's £90 million because Anthony Gordon's better. You know, maybe that could be the reason as well. Maybe he isn't a complete and utter bargain, or maybe he's a bit of a punt. You know, sometimes you pay cheap because it's a risk as well. Hussein for 50 million, but Everton wanted 80 million for Jared, says Rajaf. How much do players really have on that? How much say do players really have on their own transfers? Says Rob, always United. Rob, I think that when it comes to players, they're kids, and on top of that, they are they have agents who are very experienced, who are probably able to persuade quite well that the financial benefits of going somewhere else are better for them. I mean, look, it wouldn't be the first time that a player is signed for the wrong club because of money. Di Maria came to Man United for money and hated it. So somebody persuaded him to do that, didn't he? Just on Jonathan David, couple of updates here coming in from iPaper Sport. Newcastle have joined Manchester United, Tottenham, West Ham, Chelsea and Liverpool in the race for Jonathan David. However, it goes on to say, despite making inquiries, it is unlikely Jonathan David will move to Manchester United, with the versatile forward not the kind of profile Ruben Amorim is seeking. So that becomes... I think we're going to get Delap, I do. I think that's what we're going for. I think we're going for a young ex-Man City player. Because I can't see who else it's... We know we need a striker, and if it's not Jonathan David, and it's not Gyökeres, and it's not Osimhen, who is it? And I understand the Jonathan David thing. He is very versatile. He's not particularly tall, is he? I think he's like 5'10". Look, I can't criticise the Jonathan David thing because I've always said myself, it's a little bit like Dibbling. It's a little bit like Angel Gomez. I'm just a little bit concerned as to what it actually is. You know, what actually is the thing with Jonathan David as to why it's taken so long for him to make the move out of Lille. But if it's not going to be if it's not going to be him, then who is it going to be? You know, that to me is the interesting thing. Let us know in the comments where you would go striker wise, but I think it's probably going to be Delap is the player that we go for. Should do what Forest have done and partner with South American clubs as feeder clubs, as Garfield. Jacob says, do you think... thank you very much for your super chat, Garfield. Well, look, you know, we're meant to be exploiting the South American market. What about Ekatike? Don't think we've got any chance of getting Ekatike. Too much competition. Look, let me reiterate what we've sort of mentioned twice in this morning show. United like buying players where they can spread the cost. You can't spread the cost when 4 or 5 other clubs want the same player as you. You can't spread the cost because why would... If I'm selling Ekatike and Man United want to spend 50 million over 5 years, but then Newcastle are saying, we'll give you 50 million pounds now, I'm going to take the 50 million pounds now. Mateta, maybe. Yeah, look, there's plenty of options. Mateta, Ekatike, Delap, David, Osimhen, Gyökeres. That's off the top of my... Sesko. That's 7 strikers available. And there ain't 7 clubs that are really going to be able to get all of them. What I think will happen is we'll end up with what's left. So if Sesko's going to Arsenal and Gyökeres is going to, I don't know, Liverpool, Osimhen goes to Chelsea, Ekatike goes, I don't know where he goes, but we'll end up with what's left, I think. Do you think spreading the fees will hurt us in the long run? We pay 90 million this year for transfers with the addition of the debt interest, says Jacob. I think it's an intelligent point, Jacob, and it's certainly something to keep an eye out on in the future. But look at Barcelona. All you're doing is kicking the money down the road. Like, it's 90 million pounds this year. It'll be 90 million pounds next year. It could be 100 the year after that. You're always kicking it down the road, and we've always got the debt to pay as well. So every year we're having to find, let's say on average, 150 million quid a year is going to have to go on debt interest and transfers for players that we've already bought. It's a lot of money, isn't it? Toe Jam says, do you think Jonathan David gets undervalued because of an underlying snobbiness, maybe even xenophobia to his Canadian passport? I don't think he would in this chat, mate. I really don't think I've ever witnessed anybody in this community, well, there will be somebody, but as you know, if you take the community as a voice collectively, I've only ever seen excitement from people when it's like an African player or a South Korean player or an Australian player or a Mexican player. I don't, you know, Alphonso Davies is Canadian. Like, I don't think anybody gives a toss really about passport. Whether the club does, I'd be very surprised. But you raise a good point. I don't know what it is about Jonathan David that he's been at Lille for what feels like a decade. And I know he's still young. And the only time he's moving is when his contract runs down. I don't know what it is. Maybe there's just something about his game that we'll find out when he moves. Oh, that was why. And he's not the first player. There was that player at, he was at Sporting for years, midfielder. Always forget his name. Can picture him, but can't remember his name. Used to be in the, you know, Euros or World Cup. You'd see him all the time. Played centre midfield for Sporting. I think he moved somewhere eventually. but he was linked to us. He was linked to Arsenal. Carvalho, William Carvalho, Matthew McFadden, our editor and moderator. Yeah. Gayton is another one. Renato Sanchez did have moves, Nico. I wouldn't say him. But yeah, there are always players out there that you hear about year after year after year, and then they never... Well, Belotti, Italian, remember him? Striker. He was linked to us loads and loads and loads. There's always a player that gets linked to everybody for ages and doesn't actually make a move. And I think Jonathan David is like that, although we'll get his move now. Reasons why aside, Dibbling and Delap are good signings, says Robert. Look, Robert, you're not in the minority. I disagree, though. I don't think they're bad players, if that's what you're saying. And I think if you were even, yeah, but you know what? Dibbling and Delap wouldn't even be good signings for Arsenal. Here's a great point then. Delap and Dibbling would not be good signings for Arsenal because Arsenal need an experienced striker and a bit of experience. They've got younger players. So they are good players, but it's about the right club. Arsenal want to win the league next year. Delap would be an awful signing because they need a guy that can lead the line and score goals straight away. Delap and Dibbling for Liverpool might not be too bad because you've got Jota, you've got Diaz, you've got Salah, you've got Nunez, you've got experience there, and you know a couple of younger players coming in, you could probably accommodate and allow them time to grow. And that's my point. That's my point. They are good players. Got nothing wrong with the players, but are they what United need? No, we need experience. We're crying out for it. We're 15th in the bloody league. So, and we've already got a lot of young players already. We've got Ahmad, we've got Dorgu, we've got Garnacho, we've got Mainu, we've got Collier, we've got Yoro, we've got Heaven. We've already got, Rasmus is still young. Xerxes relatively young when you think about it. We've already got a lot of young profile players. We're crying out for experience. Mrs. Stone says, I think we'll get one big signing and that's it. And Anders Stanson says, maybe they're smoke screening to the press to avoid another Kenda situation. Agate, Delit, Mazraoui, not exactly young. Wishful thinking, I know. I hope we can pull off a couple of surprises, definitely. Do the owners hide behind PSR, says Gaz. If PSR was abolished, does anyone think anything would change and that would invest in the team? This is a good point as well. I think you can use FFP and PSR legitimately, but I think you make a good point that even if it didn't exist, we'd still be doing the same thing. If PSR and FFP didn't exist, Newcastle would do a madness. Aston Villa would do a madness. They're desperate to spend money. If PSR and FFP didn't exist, we wouldn't do a madness. We wouldn't spend money. You make a good point. You make a very good point. So Newcastle are owned by the Saudis. They're minted. The only thing that stops them spending is the FFP limitations. And if they were removed, they'd probably go and sign Mbappe for 3 billion or something like that because they've got the money. If it was removed for United, we'd still have the Glazers who don't want to spend money and Sir Jim who only owns 28%. So we wouldn't start spending money, in my opinion. It wouldn't make any difference. So you could say in a way that it suits them because that's their strategy anyway. Couple of other bits I want to just talk to you about. I mean, minor bits, really. I don't even respect these bits, so I will just tell you. Manchester Evening News have come out with a bit of Sancho stuff. Where was it? Here it is. Yeah, here we go. So Manchester Evening News is saying that influential figures in the United squad have no issues with Sancho's personality, but felt he was unable to cope with demands of playing for the club before he was exiled by Ten Hag. They would have major misgivings about the remote possibility of Sancho playing for the club again, as they do not believe he is good enough. I mean, why do I give a shit about players? And why are players still leaking to the Manchester Evening News? I mean, God, does that not just expose how thick some of our players are if they're actually still leaking to the Manchester Evening News? I mean, I just don't believe it. I don't believe it for a start. I don't think Harry Maguire's picked up the phone to the Manchester Evening News and gone, you know what, I'm recovering from injury, but if Jadon Sancho comes back, and I know there's no chance of it, but if he does, I won't be happy because I don't think he's good enough. Bye. I mean, I just don't get, we're 15th in the league. Why would a Man United player be leaking to the Manchester Evening News about Jadon Sancho when we're 15th in the bloody league and he ain't coming back anyway? It's just a non-story, isn't it? It's an absolute non-story. And also, I don't really give a shit what a player thinks. I'm not Jadon Sancho's biggest fan, but I don't give a shit what a player thinks about another player or a manager. You're paid to do your job, and most of you haven't done your job this season. And I don't care if we bring a player in that everybody hates. If they perform, I don't care what the players think. Andy Cole and Teddy Sheringham didn't get on. So I'm sorry, I'm not a big fan of Sancho, but I'm not going to give that story any credibility because apparently some leak has decided to garner a bit of favour by going, I don't like Sancho. Well, I couldn't give a shit what you do or you don't like. You're there to do a job. You're not there to do anything else, are you? Okay, well, thanks everyone for watching this morning. Absolute legends. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. We're back at 2 o'clock. I'm back at 8 o'clock. Lots for you to get your teeth into. I'll speak to you all in a bit.